Hello, my beautiful guys and dolls, and welcome to an episode of Before the Curtain. I'm your host, Abby Campbell, and we will be diving into the world of live entertainment. We will uncover what it takes to put on a show, and artists will reveal their stories of how their creations went from idea to reality. We are determined to uncover everything that happens before the curtain. Today's guest is a versatile artist who has seamlessly combined comedy and storytelling in all his endeavors. Originally from Los Angeles, he grew up training at Kinetic Theory Circus Arts. He studied dance and electrical engineering at Loyola. Wait, I should have asked about this one too. God damn it.
It's okay. Loyola Marymount.
Can you say that slower?
Yeah. Loyola.
Loyola? Oh, like
Marymount.
Toyota, but
Yeah,
Loyola.
exactly.
Okay, great.
I've never thought of it that way.
Take two. I'm going to start over that now. Oh, gosh. Here I was, thought I was prepared. Anyway. Today's guest is a versatile artist who has seamlessly combined comedy and storytelling in all his endeavors. Originally from Los Angeles, he grew up training at Kinetic Theory Circus Arts. He studied dance and electrical engineering at Loyola Marymount University. He has performed with Diablo Dance Theater, Spiegelworld, and Enchant Christmas, and recently showcased his creative skills aboard Aida Cruises, where he developed a comedic aerial rope act about the humorous ways passengers can be late to board. You can currently find him at Spiegelworld Super Frico inside the Cosmopolitan Hotel. He is passionate about his purpose, and that is why we have him here today, because I've experienced it firsthand, and I will say that he is truly magical. Focusing on how he creates theatrical performances through relatable characters with superhuman tricks, please help me welcome to the mic, Fosse Lin-Bianco.
Yay. Thank you so much, Abby. I'm really, really excited to be here.
So welcome. So we're going to get it right into it.
Lovely.
Because it sounds like you have trained in dance and also circus, but where was it?
Yeah.
At what point were you like, I want to create the aerial, but I also want to add in like a sense of storytelling and comedy? Were you always like that?
Yeah, it definitely was inspired by my circus director growing up. Her name was Stephanie, and she studied as a mime and contortionist for many years. And so, through her program and learning under her, she was always reinforcing, storytelling through circus. And so, as part of our circus training, we would do, theater games and and acting games and such. And it really, stemmed from her. And so, even when we were we would always do a Halloween show every year because she loved Halloween. And sometimes she would write her own stories. Sometimes we would do some adaptations. This one year we did a circus adaptation of The Shining.
Oh.
Yeah. And we had the bathtub scene, but it was a contortion act. Or we had the scene when Wendy is swinging the bat at Jack, that turned into a juggling act. So we kind of created these ways to use circus to tell this story. And so that always really rung in the back of my head as something that was really cool. And as I kind of got into the professional world, realized that I was kind of rare. And so I really started focusing on that because that was my background, and I felt like that was a niche to be explored here.
Did you ever because you said it's rare. When you say it's rare, you mean that art of creating fun things of that way?
I would say people focusing on character work and storytelling through circus. I think a lot of circus acts are probably more on the abstract side or more presentational, exhibitional side, which is also very cool and definitely lends towards this, what we do in Vegas. But I think people having clear characters and more of a beginning, middle, end to their acts is a little more uncommon.
Okay, yeah. Was that intimidating that you were kind of I think I'm going to do it this way?
Not so much intimidating because it has always felt more natural to me. Mm-hmm. But I think sometimes it's hard to find a place for that work in the Vegas industry because a lot of the acts here are very showy. And so sometimes I feel like there's not always room for these more niche characters or acts that I've created. So I think it's maybe been a little challenging in that respect. Yeah.
How do you find inspiration for creating these stories?
That's a good question. They start from many different areas. Let's see.
Like the one on,
Yeah.
let's say on board that you just did,
Yeah.
the one about being late to board, like
Yeah.
as a passenger. How did you just come up with that?
Okay. So that one actually came from
Experience?
no, that did not come from experience. Although I have experienced my definitely close calls before now that I've been on board for a couple contracts. This one actually came from a comment that one of the, who was it? Oh yeah, at Circus Center, at the circus studio I train at, one of the people who worked in the office, I told her I was going on a cruise ship, and she was like, oh my God, like, it would be so funny if you were like, didn't actually like late to the ship. Like, she just randomly mentioned that. And I go, wait, Michelle, that's genius. so then I didn't say that at the time. I just clocked it in my head, and I think I wrote it down in my little ideas Google Doc. And then I revisited it when I was trying to create work, and I go, oh, that's amazing. So then it was literally that comment that like inspired the whole act.
I love that the universe just handed it to you.
so yeah, and then from there I kind of started crafting the other elements of it. So I was like, oh my God, what if it would be so cool if I like started in the audience and I'm like one of the guests. So I basically like a couple acts before the show would go and sit in the crowd, and I had my little Hawaiian shirt on and my little bucket hat, and I had a I Heart Dubai shirt on.
Cute.
And my little khakis and my Birkenstocks. And I sat in the audience just with the guests. And then the act starts, and the rope basically starts rising from the stage, and then the horn blares. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm late. And so then I'm running through the crowd onto the stage to jump on the rope and get back on the ship. So yeah.
Because the rope is basically like the ship.
Yeah, the rope was kind of supposed to be like the anchor being like pulled up. And so the rope starts to like coil down on the floor. and then it like slowly gets pulled up, and then I run and chase after it, and I jump on it, and then it like pulls me up with it.
So fun. So were you able to have like total creative freedom with that act when you got on the ship?
I was, yeah. I would say AIDA has been pretty lenient on like the work we make. We get one act where we get to do our own creation. The rest of them are like the choreographed stage shows, but we get one act where we get to do our own stuff. And it definitely has to be within like a family friendly like sphere, but besides that it's pretty open. So
that's amazing.
They were really cool about it.
That's awesome. So has there ever been a time where you maybe created an act and you like somebody or a producer, whoever you were working for, kind of shot down the idea and you kind of had to like go to bat for it or anything in that kind of aspect? Because I know sometimes that it's really easy for creatives to have these amazing ideas. They're like, oh, I'm so excited, I want to do this. And then we have to try to take that creative idea, put it into words, and, you know, kind of go to bat.
I don't think there's ever been a moment where I've had to like really defend my work. I'd say a lot of the stuff I've created has just been for myself at the moment. I would really like for it to be hired and for it to be like produced, but I would say most of it has been just for my own creation or to like create a new act to put in a demo reel or to share with casting directors. I think most of the work I've done has been like pre-choreographed shows, but the acts I've created have been like audition submissions for that.
So they kind of already had an idea of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's good though, that they saw it and they hired it, right?
Yeah. I think one thing that is positive about the narrative-based circus acts is I think you can really show performance quality. And I think like casting directors really like that because they're like, oh, he can do super cool tricks, but he can also like connect with the audience. And they're like, yes, I can hire that because I know they're not just going to like, you know, be like internal and just obsessed with the tricks the whole time. Like they're going to present outward, you know? And so I've gotten that like comment from casting directors before being like, I really like your performance quality. And so I'm like, yes. So I think, most of my acts have been for audition purposes and not for like, I guess, presenting. But hopefully I do get to the point when someone comes at me and is trying to shoot down my work, and I do have to defend it because I feel like I have a lot of evidence to like to share to back it up with. So I hope that does happen because I would be prepared.
You guys heard it. Someone come at him.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. Don't.
But yeah, I say that because I would like to present my own work in the future, and I think if I was presenting that as the main thing, then I would be really fulfilled.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have from sending in like audition tapes again, like because they saw it and they hired it, you know.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
That's how you have presented it. So it's also amazing to be like you haven't had to fight to be seen. You've just presented it, and they were like, "Yeah, that's the one we want," because you have cultivated all these skills and talents throughout your experience.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna swing back to the question.
Yeah.
How else have you gotten inspired to create new kind of things?
So sometimes they come from many different areas. Sometimes it comes from like music. I love there's this theme song from the movie Amelie, and I have always been obsessed with that song, and so that kind of was the inspiration for creating a piece of mine. Sometimes I really like to focus on the apparatus and what like unique ways I can use the apparatus in my storytelling. So, for example, I created an act to a song from the musical Hadestown.
Okay.
And it's the song Wait For Me. And, you know, Hadestown tells a story of this guy, Orpheus, who's going into hell to save the woman he loves. And I think rope is a really perfect apparatus for this act, because you literally, it's a vertical apparatus, so you can show the descent like downward into hell. So that's kind of what inspired that act. And for this piece, I started at the top of the rope, all coiled up as if I was like starting a journey. And then I dropped the rope and I like throughout the act descended downward and finally ended on the floor as if I was like,
oh my God, wait,
in
how
hell.
long was that act?
It was like 4 minutes.
Like, Jesus.
Yeah. See, that was also the trick. I've set up this story where I can't touch the ground until the end.
4 minutes. Wow. So, anytime I need to open a jar of pickles now, I'm gonna call you, because wow, able to hold yourself up. I mean, for 4 minutes is amazing. Anyway, sorry, I just got blown away by that idea and that fact, because Jesus.
But I really to this day really love that act, because I think it's cool to like flip this perspective, because usually, you know, in aerial acts you start on the ground and like you ascend upward, but I'm kind of like starting on the top and coming downward, and like I think it just matches really well with this descending into hell story. I thought, coming from the inspiration of the apparatus was how that act got created.
So then when you get inspiration for a new act, where do you start?
Well, first, when I have an idea, it goes into the Google Doc and it ruminates there for a little bit.
Is this a really long Google Doc?
Yeah.
It's okay. I understand exactly.
So it goes into Google Doc, and sometimes it just goes there, and that's it for right now, you know? Okay. And then it kind of sits there. And then every so often I go back and I look at ideas and kind of pull from ones that I think are interesting or that I'm interested in now. What was the question?
Like, where do you start? So, like, you had the idea for both any of your acts, and you're like, I have this idea. Do you start writing out the storyline? Do you start writing out, like, do you start playing with sequences on the apparatus?
Okay. Yeah. Let's take the Hadestown one, for example.
Okay, perfect.
So, for that act, I had the structure in mind of, like, starting at the top, ending at the bottom. And then from there, I listened to the music and figured out where the like emotional climax was, or the emotional like low points were. And so I was like, okay, it really like builds at like the first chorus, and then like the final chorus is like a grander version of that. So I'm like, okay, those two moments are like really important. And so then I kind of think about sequences that kind of match those moments. Like, okay, in the last climactic chorus, I'm gonna do a really big drop, and that's going to be like a really nice release of music, but also release of movement. And so those like will match together. And then I'll be like, ooh, I really like this ending to the music because it has a really sharp like drum beat on the end. And so I'm like, okay, right before that it's really chaotic. Okay, I'm like, okay, maybe I can do a spin, and I'll be really chaotic in the spin, and then I'll like open up really suddenly on the drum beat. It's like, okay, maybe that can go there. And then so I kind of have like those like moments I want to hit, and then I'll go on the rope and then like choreograph the in-betweens. So then that's how I kind of start with the sequencing. I kind of put it all together, usually do like a rough draft run through of the skills to make sure I can physically achieve all of those in 4 minutes. Because sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to do a back plunge, and then I'm going to do a drop, and then I'm going to do a spin into a cartwheel. And then I get there and I go, I can't do the cartwheel. So
I love that though. But it's really interesting to me because like I have talked to other circus artists that like don't necessarily, some of the, I haven't talked to all of them. So forgive me when I say, but a lot of the times in aerial, you don't necessarily have to choreograph your sequences to specific music cues or moments like that because, sometimes aerial can be unpredictable.
Yeah.
And sometimes you do, just like any live performance and just like any performer, you have to be able to switch on the fly. So then as you choreograph these, do you find it hard to make those adaptable changes because of your kind of more strict music cues and storytelling?
Definitely. That's probably the biggest challenge, I would say, is the unpredictability of the apparatus. Because if I unwrap in a wrong way, then I have to spend 15 seconds to get back on track, and that can make me behind in the music and stuff. And so I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is still hitting the music cues while also being safe and making sure I'm rapping correctly and stuff.
And keeping the story going and not letting the audience knowing that you're struggling or knowing that. So there's so much that goes into that as well.
Exactly. I think one thing I find difficult about the rope apparatus in particular is finding moments of isolation because, in dance, you can stop very quickly and like isolate a certain body part. But on rope, when I stop my body, the rope is still moving. I'm like, girl, stop. I need to hit a music cue. Like, and so sometimes I find the apparatus difficult because I'm trying to choreograph to the music and I'm like, this would be a great moment for like an isolated head nod or like a hand flick. But then the rope's turning and I'm facing upstage and I'm like, well, great.
And there goes that idea.
Yeah. So I think that's that has been a little bit of a challenge for me in trying to choreograph so specifically to music is
because
apparatus.
Because actors and dancers and even singers and musicians do have that, whenever I want to stop, I can stop. Whenever I want to go faster, I can go faster. And you can't just do that. You have to take into account a whole nother prop and a whole nother being in so many words that also has to follow that choreography, but sometimes doesn't, and sometimes faces you upstage when you want to have a visual, maybe facial moment or smaller moment.
Yeah. That's
got to be really difficult.
Yeah, it is, but part of the challenge,
And you're smiling, so it looks like you love the challenge, which is great.
It is a good challenge and something you have to take into account and something we just got to work with. But, that's part of being in the air and doing cool tricks in the sky. So
have you ever experienced any feelings of like, oh my gosh, it would just be easier if I just did a normal circus act because this one's so hard? Or have you always just...
I would feel like there would be something missing. Because to me, like, the tricks are what draw people in, but then the story and the emotion is what like makes people remember.
That's a statement. That's a quote. Quotes by Fosse.
I think it's amazing that circus arts has this ability to draw people in because it's very impressive what we do, right? But I think going beyond that, not just being circus, but being circus arts, we have this option to tell something more than just, or show something more than just cool tricks. And I think that's where the storytelling and the character comes in, where people can remember what you showed them and like think about it afterwards. And I would probably get bored with just creating things that don't have stories, because I think that's what really connects with people at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And to know that you still wouldn't change it, even though sometimes it can be a bitch. Sometimes you're like, oh gosh, is very admirable, because you know that it really does come from an authentic place of like, this is why I'm doing it. And I have to do it this way because I can't imagine myself doing anything else, which is also a huge kind of idea and statement. And that, again, just shows how much you care about your craft.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know. I think I kind of envision my goals in circus arts as creating art and creating work where people watch it and think about it for many months or years to come. And like, you know, even people not in the entertainment industry being like, I saw this random rope act one time, but like it really made me like question my like ideas of work-life balance, or I don't know, something or whatever, or it made me like question my ideas of spirituality or something like that. And they're like, I just like, even just having those moments where like it can resonate with people months or years after. I think I aim to have that effect on people.
That's amazing. So has there been any point in your journey thus far that you, maybe about the industry, that you learned that you never expected to learn? Whether it has to do with circus, whether it has to do with dance or even acting, because I know you have your little hands in so many, which again is amazing because you tie them all together in your storytelling of circus. But any of those professional work environments that, again, you learned or took you off guard that you didn't expect?
Like the contracts or jobs that I've got here in Vegas have come from very random places. And I think that has surprised me. And I can never predict them. And so I think that has been the most like surprising to me, because I was like, you know, I kind of ended up getting my job at Super Frico, which was working for a circus company, through like a dance audition I went to. Like that.
Wait, really?
Yeah, kind of. Because did I tell you the story?
No.
So I went to a dance audition. I don't even remember what it was for. I think it was like the Whitney Houston hologram show or something. Do you remember that?
I don't know if I was here or around or went to that. I remember going to the Cher audition.
Oh, I don't think I went.
Maybe
to that
I
one.
didn't go to Whitney Houston because there must have been like a height requirement. Anytime there's a height requirement, I'm out.
I don't know. It was one of those, and I went and there was this woman named Kelly there, and I've always like, she like helps out a lot at a lot of auditions, and so I would like always chat with her at the beginning. And so at this point it's been maybe like 5 auditions that I've gone to since coming to Vegas. I'm like, oh, Kelly, like, how's it going? Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like warming up and she pulls me over and she goes, Fosse, come here. I go, yeah, what's up? She goes, you're kind of quirky, right? I go, yeah?
What an opening line.
And she was like, I may have like, she was like, well, I know you do circus stuff, and so I may have like a small opportunity for you. I was like, oh, that's great. Like, I would love to submit. And so then she like, gave me the information. I submitted for it, and then she helped me get an interview with Super Frico. And then while I was there, the person who was like hiring at Super Frico knew my boss at Enchant. So I'm sure they probably like talked about it or something. And that's kind of how I ended up getting to Super Frico. And so it was like nothing I could have predicted. Oh, also funny because I had like auditioned for Super Frico previously, like a year ago. And like I submitted a self-tape, and this was the time when we were like standing outside at the door and like greeting people and also doing some performances. And so the self-tape was like some sort of door like greeting thing. I don't know. So I made this whole bit where I was like opening the door and like greeting people in. And I had I don't know why it ended up having this like sinister mwahaha like vibe to it, but it did. Anyways, and so I made this whole thing and I was like really proud of it, and I submitted and I was like, I think this is gonna get me like a callback or something. Like I was like, there's something here, and then I heard nothing. And so then I was like, oh, okay. And then the reason I ended up getting the job is because someone was like, you're kind of quirky.
Did you actually say mwahaha whenever you videotaped?
I think so.
Oh, I love you.
There was also some lighting elements into it too. I got these like I had this like suit jacket.
I need to see this video.
Yeah. I'll show you sometime. I had this white and black striped jacket, and I put little like LED like strips on it that were like little remote control.
Oh my
But
god,
I
we're
d-
getting into costume design
but
now.
but I didn't have like a portable like battery pack or anything, so I had to plug it into like the outlet, but I couldn't go too far because the cord only extended that long, so I didn't move that much, and so so I open the door, and then they finally come in, and I'm like, and it's really dark. I'm like something along the lines of, I hope you don't get lost, but don't worry, I will turn on lights, light up the way. And then I did my Mwah.
This is iconic. Oh, the things we do for audition tapes to get jobs. I love that. That's a fantastic story.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm crying.
But I didn't get booked from that, everyone. Yeah,
I wonder if
that's my
anybody
story.
remembered your audition video.
My friend who filmed it will definitely remember. But
That's
yeah, I
hilarious.
wonder. I wonder.
But what other surprising ways have you booked jobs?
I guess the like booking in chant was a little silly too. I met this girl in dance class, and we became friends, and so I was over at her house, and her roommate like was helping cast for Enchant the first year. So I was over at the house just like chilling, and she goes, "Do you want to audition for this like Christmas thing?" I'm like, "Okay." So she like sent me the thing, and I was like, "I have no idea what this is, but I guess I'll go." And then I went to the audition, and I guess got Enchant from there. I guess that was a little surprising. I think my Super Freako story is the best one.
It is.
That's
that's the best.
my Aida Cruises audition was actually a very, very traditional pathway. I went to the
Yeah.
audition, and then they
Yeah.
got into the database and they accepted me, which honestly was kind of, that seems more surprising that it was so linear. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yes, I do, because I can also relate to that. Most of the jobs, I think more jobs that I haven't auditioned for, I've done and worked than the jobs that I have auditioned for. Like, at some point, I'm like, why am I still going to audition? Not like I'm not going to, because I'm going to, and I'm going to go always and forever. But still, it's like, well, if I actually take the percentage of my jobs and take out the ones that I actually auditioned for, I still have most of my jobs.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
You know, and now that I'm thinking about that, as you mention it, it's almost like, you know, like obviously the auditions are like the formal thing you need to do, and that's also important.
Oh, always.
But-
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like being aware of these like smaller random things that can turn into opportunities, like relationships or small like gigs that you do or other things.
You know, and
Yeah.
that's the thing. Always show up, right? Always show up to the audition. If somebody is like, hey, like I just, for instance, last week I did a type of celebration of life. They asked for a specific performance. And so the choreographer was like, hey, can you do this? It's just a little thing. Like, it's not that big. And of course, like, yeah, of course I'll be there. And then when I went and performed, before I left, I knew one person at the event. And I was like, I want to say hi to her before I leave because I do love her, love working with her, and, you know, want to say hi. And so I walk back in, and as somebody's leaving, they're like, oh, someone's looking for you. And I was like, me? What do you mean me? I don't know. I only know one person here. And so luckily they were standing at the window, and the guy that told me that was like, oh, look, it's her. And so he came out and was like, hey, I'm booking you for this. And I was like, oh, okay. Sounds good.
Cool.
And like, you know, that's the thing. Show up, and it's like I was literally just going in to say hi to one woman that I wanted to see, and all of a sudden it was like I got booked.
Wait, so you weren't previously booked for the job? You were
No.
just there to
I was
say
just
hi?
there. No, I was just there performing, and after the performance, I wanted to go back in and say hi to her. Name is Sandy. I wanted to go say hi to Sandy because I love Sandy. I was like, I'll just go back in, say hi, and then leave. And as I was walking back in, this guy was like, yeah, someone's looking for you. He came out and was like, yeah, I'm booking you. I'm like,
Awesome.
Can you imagine if you just don't show up?
Yeah.
What if you do? What if you do show up? What happens? Like, A, you just have a good time doing what you love to do, dancing or performing or whatever it may be. And you might make some friends, or you might get asked to do something else. You literally never know. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool story. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a lucky person?
Oh my gosh. Wow. Has the interview switched? Would I consider myself a lucky person? That's a really deep question. Or like, I'm really thinking about it. I would consider myself one of my life mottos is like, why the hell not?
Okay.
So I feel like because I just kind of say that all the time, I just end up being in situations and being so open to what happens that, you know, things can come in. I don't know if that would be considered luck.
Yeah.
You know, preparation meets opportunity is what my ballet teacher used to say. So if you're prepared,
my mom says that.
So if you're prepared and you show up prepared, the opportunity will find you. Yeah. And so I feel like just being prepared and being like, you know, why not? I feel like that's what brings what you can call luck.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I like that. I recently learned about this study that they did about how if people perceive themselves as lucky or unlucky, and they gave people like a newspaper and they said, count how many images there are, how many like photo spots there are in the newspaper. And there were like 42 images in total. And then on page like 3 or 4 of the newspaper was a huge bold print that said, there are 42 pictures in this newspaper. You can close it, or there are 42 pictures in the newspaper. Like, you gave the answer. And so a higher percentage of the people who had previously said that they perceive themselves as lucky read the print, closed the newspaper, and said, oh, there are 42 images.
Oh, I would have said, no, I don't trust that. I would have still counted the pictures.
Interesting.
That's trauma.
Interesting. Okay. But anyways, so they just found like there was the people who said they perceive themselves as unlucky typically missed that and also made more mistakes in counting the number of images. And I think the point was kind of like, if you consider yourself lucky, then you're open to more opportunities from the beaten path.
Yeah.
You know, you're more open to like things coming your way to like influence your decision or maybe not influence your decision, but like you're more open to other possibilities.
Right.
And I kind of liked that. And I thought that was kind of relevant to our industry and
it is
being open to opportunities, even if they're not the more obvious options.
Right. No, and I like that because it's also, you know, when I think of luck, I think of, you know, or maybe the typical version of luck of things that just are handed to people, right? That's kind of, and maybe that's like a little bit of a distorted version of luck that I see, and so maybe I need to clean those glasses off. But like, that's what I think of, and so it's like, you know, you ask me that, and I'm like, because I feel like I haven't, like I've worked for everything that I have, and I feel like without that preparation and without that past hard work, dedication, and commitment, I wouldn't be able to see the opportunities and I wouldn't be able to acknowledge them or even, again, be open to them. So I don't know where I'm going with that.
Yeah. No, I see what you mean. I guess, the word luck can take many different connotations.
Yeah.
I think perhaps your definition of preparation meeting opportunity.
Shout out John Bellamy.
Can probably be like, I really like that. Perhaps that can be the most relevant for our industry, because it's also like, you know, being prepared and having more experience helps you realize which of these small opportunities you need to look out for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be like, oh, this is a really small gig, and I know it might not like be that glamorous, but like I know the choreographer there like worked for someone else, so like I think I should do this one. You know, kind of just like have more knowledge about
the discernment.
Which ones? Yeah, the discernment. And so perhaps that can, you know, help you spot the opportunities better.
Absolutely. And every time you know, continue to show up for people, you know, people clock that. They're like, oh, yeah, I know that so-and-so is going to show up for me every time I ask, you know?
Yeah. I think doing that helps you show your work helps show your work to others instead of telling your work to others. You know? Because like, it means a lot when you like show up and do the thing versus like telling them that you can do the thing.
Yeah.
You know?
And even if it's in how you do one thing is how you do everything though, right? So if you can show up and do, you know, a small thing for someone, a choreographer, a producer, an employer, then, and if you do it really well, they're probably going to be more open to seeing your other work because they've seen you work in one capacity. Yeah. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything.
I like that.
It's facts. Or maybe it's not. Maybe I just believe that. You know, it's just one of those things of like, because you got into juggling back with the first year of Enchant, right? Or were you in juggling
when I started
before that? Yeah.
To juggle?
Yeah.
I had like juggled previously, like growing up in circus school and stuff. Yeah.
Because I feel like you were working on it a lot at Enchant.
Juggling?
Yeah.
I guess so,
like
yeah.
that first year.
I mean, I was juggling on that box for
Yeah.
hours on end, I guess. Yeah.
And I feel like, and maybe this is wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I remember seeing that, and because did your character start out at Enchant that way? Because I know at Enchant we all have to like make our own characters and create our backstories as elves because it's Enchant Christmas, right? So it's a Christmas event. And I'm also saying this for people who have no idea what Enchant is, but a Christmas event at the Las Vegas ballpark. As elves, we have to come up with like our stories and like our characters, our names, and what makes us who we are. Like, and so did your character at that time juggle? I know this is a really random. I'm gonna make a point with this. I promise.
I don't think I initially. I don't think I initially created the character as one who could juggle, but because I didn't really think I was gonna do that first.
Mm-hmm.
But then it kind of, I was like, oh, I'll bring it as a second option, and then they were like, oh, we would like that would be really cool, and I was like, okay, I can add it in. So it kind of was an afterthought, I'd say.
So the reason I'm saying this is because I used to see you, work on like do it all the time at Enchant that first year because for the audience, Fosse and I worked together at Enchant, and that's
this is how we met.
That's how we met.
many memories at Enchant.
But because seeing you do that, and then knowing that our higher ups were also seeing you do that, you were also able to come in later in the years and be a special performer as a juggler. So the reason I say that is because they saw you work hard in not only your initial position, adding in a little bit of like, hey, I can also do this. And at that point, I also could be off base. They might not think this at all, but from an outside perspective, it's like they trusted you enough to bring that aspect in. And then later on, because last year wasn't the first year, it was the year before that. It was the second year that they like actually used you for that special skill and, respected you that way because they saw the work that you did prior.
Yeah, this is true. I don't think I ever kind of put that together, but I would say that's accurate. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I told you there was going to be a point to it.
Very good. Yeah, I guess, you're definitely right. I think that juggling at the first year definitely paved the way for me to end up being a featured performer later. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So thinking about those kind of aspects of, showing up in the industry and like those little tiny skill sets, because I feel like that's a skill set, right? Is realizing that you need to show up. Would you say there's any other kind of skills of that way that you've learned through your experience working as a professional?
I think one thing I've learned is to like share your wins with your managers.
Oh, okay.
Like if I had a really good interaction with a guest at Enchant, then I would like share that with my boss and be like, oh, I had this really great moment with the guest and like they really left with like a really like magical experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of shows, like kind of helps them see that you're like doing good work and like, because they're not always there to see every single moment,
Right.
And sometimes it can be a little awkward to be like, hi, like look, I did this really cool thing, I'm amazing, but like coming at it from like oh, the guest had like a really good experience, then like I kind of helped make that happen. I think they appreciate those moments and like kind of it clocks in that you do good work. So I think sometimes like it's good to make sure that your managers like see that you're doing good work because they don't always catch everything. And so maybe they do catch something and that's wonderful. But like if you do have a really like good moment or a good interaction with a guest or a good performance, like make sure that's known. Because sometimes they might just need, sometimes they write it in their reports and they're like show reports, and then the show report like gets sent to the general manager or something, and they're like, oh, I wasn't there, but like Fosse did this really cool thing at Super Frico and it like made a really good guest experience. Like, that's awesome. And then I think all those little moments kind of add up, but that's something I try to do that I think has garnered good relationships with my superiors or supervisors. Interesting.
I never would have thought about that. Well, because sometimes, things like good things happen and you're like, oh, I'm excited about it. But sometimes I feel like this sounds awful, that I don't want to waste the time of my managers or my like supervisor. Maybe I just, not that sharing a good experience is a waste of time, but also maybe I'm too sensitive and I'm like, oh, I know they're doing a bunch of things, like I'm not going to go share it. But that's also, again, they probably want to experience that feeling with you, right? Of that magical moment that you created. So at least good supervisors do. They
Yeah.
want to experience that feeling that you had, you know, and the guests had. So, oh my God, you're teaching me. I shouldn't feel I shouldn't
No,
feel
it's
like
fine.
that's like a burden or like, you know, inconvenience, right?
I don't think so, because I think the managers, like, their goal is to like make sure the guests have a good
Mm-hmm.
experience, right? They're like one step removed, so they're not like interacting with them directly, but their job is to make sure that everything runs smoothly so that the guests have a good experience.
Mhm.
So when you make that happen, like, you're like, oh great, like I'm doing a good job providing the environment for my performers to give this experience.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good perspective shift.
Yeah.
I like that. My glasses are getting cleaner as we talk, Fosse.
Yeah. I think why I say that is because at the end of the day, like, the manager's job is to also make sure the guests have a good experience. Like, yes, they have maybe more administrative things to do, so that's not their like every single priority. But I think at the end of the day, you know, we're hired to like make people happy and like and give people a good experience. And so, yeah.
Do you think that trickles over into like your performances as well, and even just like having a good performance or realizing that you maybe leveled up in something, like sharing those wins?
I would say I would include that too. Yeah. I think especially if you like start to get a good like form a good relationship with your managers, then they kind of root for you, and then I think sharing those wins is very good because they can see you're like growing and like want to learn new things, and that's always a great thing.
Absolutely. I like it. I like the little perspective shift. This is fun.
That's good. I don't think I've ever like verbalized that into words before.
Yeah.
It just has been an inside thought. So thanks for pulling that out of me.
You're welcome. I know we kind of like have jumped everywhere, but do you have any new like creations in the works? Or new ideas that you're like, I'm tinkering with this. You can also keep it to yourself. You don't have to share, but this is a safe space.
Yeah, you know, I don't think anything is in the works at the moment.
Okay.
So,
hey,
I think, you know, it might be time to just be open to supplying the Google Doc with some more ideas.
Google Doc needs more.
That's maybe where we're at right now.
Okay. Hey, totally cool. Life has those phases, you know? Sometimes we're in creation, sometimes we're in germination. Right?
Yeah.
Germinates. I don't know if that was the right usage of that word either.
But yeah.
But so throughout, like, because if anybody who's listening doesn't know, the industry of the entertainment world has its very high highs and very low lows. Is there any type of resource or something that you can say has kept you center and that has kept you like mentally stable or mentally healthy throughout your journey so far? You know?
I think for me, it has honestly been taking dance class, especially like I love going to Alison Burke's class, her contemporary class, and I try and go like every single week, and that has kind of always been my like rock every week. And I go just kind of to feel good and to move to music, and that kind of always centers me like during the week, as much as I, you know, see myself as primarily a circus performer. But I think, I don't know, something about dance really helps me just get in tune with my body and focus and kind of reset. So I would say like Allison's class kind of has been my way to keep steady through the ups and downs. Yeah.
I love that. Hey, sometimes it's just like one time a week is all you need, you know, as that refresher. How do you, this is like kind of a random jump question.
Yeah, go.
But it popped into my head and now I have to ask. How do you maintain your level of athleticism when you are not doing aerial? Like currently in a contract.
When I'm not currently in a contract. Well, I would say when I'm not on contract, I train pretty regularly. So I'd say I go to the circus gym about like 4 times a week. And I work on my disciplines. So usually right now that has been like, you know, training rope and then also doing Chinese pole. That has kind of been my new discipline I've been exploring. And so, usually I do those two, and then maybe I'll take a dance class afterwards or something. She'll usually do that like 4 days a week, I would say. And that's how I keep up. I would say like in the circus community, there's a pretty big culture of like training. So like when we're not on contract, everyone's just like at the gym by default, just like training and working on things. So it's really nice to be in a place like Vegas because that's kind of like the norm. And a lot of us go to the same gym. So we all kind of like are in the same space a lot of the time. So, you know, then training also becomes a little bit of like social time too and like fun time. So it kind of encompasses a lot more than just like work, you know?
How long are your training sessions?
3 hours, usually.
4 days a week?
Yeah. I'll do like 1.5 hours of rope and then 1.5 hours of pole. That has been my routine for right now.
Incredible. And that's how you learned to hang for 4 minutes in the air.
Yes. Yeah. But I think it's really helpful when you can like train with other people. Like I find when I have like training sessions or jam sessions with other rope artists or pole artists, like that's when it becomes a lot more fun and can make training go by faster too. So I try and like match up my trainings with other artists because then have a good time training together, and that always makes it more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you gotten inspired by training with others?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially like more recently on Chinese pole, there's been like a handful of us that have been training together every once in a while, and we'll do like, you know, synchronized drops together and play around with like choreo on the bottom of the pole, and that has been really fun. And you know, we like share ideas and share tricks and stuff. And a couple of them like also take Chinese pole class with me during the week. Oh, I also like frequently take circus classes as well. And so we'll like work on the things that we did in class, like on our own and stuff. So that has been really fun recently to train with the little pole group.
That's so fun. So I know we kind of talked about challenges earlier on in the podcast about like creating your stories through your discipline and getting those little nuances throughout your routine in that in the storytelling. But are there any other major challenges that we haven't talked about yet that you want to share?
I think those are the biggest things. Like the athleticism of being able to do the skills is one challenge, and then also musicality has been the second challenge. So I guess we did touch on those, but I think those are the two biggest challenges for me, is like being able to do the acts that I envisioned for myself. I think the athleticism is probably the biggest part of the acts for me, because I can have a lot of ideas, but then I'm like, oh wait, I gotta do this. I gotta actually do this. Yeah.
So then I'm going to take that same question and apply it to the professional world of entertainment.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced as a professional entertainer?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenges.
Not the side.
No. No, I think it's putting myself out there and advocating for myself and like submitting, like having this constant attitude of submitting work or submitting my demo reels or auditioning or applying. I think I still struggle with that, because it's kind of exhausting to continue auditioning, continue submitting for stuff, and I feel like more people could always, or the right people still need to like see my work, and I struggle like finding those people that I need to
like finding
be submitting to.
Like finding the submissions that you feel, I want to say, inspired to submit to.
Yeah, or finding the right like pairings, you know, like the right, like where does my skill set like best match the job and the role. I think that might be the biggest challenge, actually, because you know, they're like, oh, we want an airless. I'm like, okay, great, but they're like, oh, we really want straps and lyra, and I'm like, well, I don't really specialize in those, so I'm probably not the best you know, candidate. And so sometimes it's kind of like that. And so I think my challenge is finding the jobs and the contracts and that are like the right match.
Finding a puzzle to put your piece in.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's one of my favorite analogies.
Yes. And I don't know, I'm still working on that and figuring out where I fit. But the crew stuff has been really good, and that's been a good stepping stone. So I was like, okay, that felt right. Like I like that. And so now it's kind of figuring out what the next thing is.
But it sounds like, again, from an outside perspective, that the other things that you have done, your education and the jobs that you have completed and are still doing so far have given you more tools of storytelling and fun, different nuances to place into what you truly want to do in your storytelling of Ariel.
Yes, definitely.
So,
I think, all those experiences have definitely been adding up and helping for sure. Yeah.
So before I ask one of my final questions, I know you took notes about today. Is there anything else that you wanted to add from your Google Doc or talk?
Oh my God. No, I think we touched on a lot of different subjects. I'm really thrilled with where this conversation went.
Okay, great.
I feel very satisfied.
Okay, good. I know you had a lot on your heart to share, and I wanted to make sure you had all the space to share.
No, I did, and I think you did a fabulous job probing and questioning.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed all the questions.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Okay, so then here we go. Tell me your funniest story as a performer.
Yeah, okay. So I have one funny performing moment, and then I got one funny career moment.
Okay.
So my funny performing moment actually happened this past weekend.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I did it, and I go, this is the one I'm going to use for Abby's podcast. So yeah, last weekend I did a gig at Marquee, which is the nightclub in the Cosmopolitan, and they were having a Winter Wonderland themed club night.
Of course.
And
happy holidays.
Happy holidays from Vegas. And so I dressed up as a Yeti who was wearing a bikini, and I raved with the guests.
At night or during the day?
Oh, no, at night. Yeah. This was 11 p.m. to 1 a.m.
I need to have an episode that just talks about funny gigs, the things that I actually have done to get for money.
Yeah.
Because that is that's real.
So
the check is gonna clear.
Yeah.
The check is gonna clear from that.
Yeah, and I don't know if this makes it better, but I did have some previous experience doing the Yeti character because we do it at Super Frico.
Oh yeah,
in the ski lodge. So I had done this a couple times, but never in a nightclub setting. But I have to say, it was so fun.
Have you been to a rave before?
Not at that scale. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Not definitely in a Yeti costume.
Not in a Yeti costume, and definitely not in that grand of a scale. And I was like, never thought the first time I'd be at Marquee would be in a Yeti costume, but here we are. Here we are. Yeah. Anyways, but it was so fun. I don't know. See, something about being behind a mask is a little helpful in this setting because you can really detach from yourself and remain anonymous, and you can, be another character. And that was very helpful. Mm-hmm. And it was so fun because, the Yeti is a very scary, masculine looking character, but then he has this bikini on, which makes it a little more feminine. So you're kind of confused. And and so basically I would walk around and I would kind of just lock eyes with people in the crowd. And then I would just start slowly walking towards them and kind of seducing them in a way. And so that was kind of how I started engaging with the crowd. And I locked eyes with this one guy and I start walking towards him. And at first he was like, "Oh, this is really fun." And then I got really close and then he got a little shocked and he goes, "I don't know if you're a dude or a girl, so I'm gonna back away now." And at first I was rude, but then I was I like that. I kind of like that you were confused in your mind and there was some wheels turning there. I like that. And then I moved on.
He said, "I feel accomplished."
So yeah.
I love that. And the other story?
Okay, here's my other story. So
oh, we're getting comfy, folks.
Okay, so this story has to do with this bit I do at Super Frico called Celebration Square.
Mm-hmm.
Have I told you about this before?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, this is a good one. So a couple months into me working at Super Frico, we came up with this bit called Celebration Square, where I walk in to the restaurant. Okay, for context, Super Frico is a restaurant and they have interactive performances throughout the evening. And so people are dining and you don't really know when the acts start or stop. They kind of just flow in and out throughout the evening. So So I walk into the space. I'm like very formal attire. I'm in a tux and I have like a white roll of tape with me. And I'm like very serious, very stoic. And I go and find a really nice place on the floor and I draw a perfect square on the floor. And then I just stand there and wait for someone to step inside, usually accidentally. And then when they step inside, I clap for them ferociously, like I'm their biggest cheerleader. And then when they step out, I go deadpan. That's it. And I do this for maybe about 5 minutes. And then I pack up the tape and then I leave. And that's it. And at first I was like, okay, it's like a silly bit, but like, I guess it'll be fun, whatever. And as we started doing it more, people like really started liking it. And they were like, oh my God, like that was so fun. Like that was so cool. Like amazing. And then my managers were like, oh my God, you have to keep doing this. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I also have another bit where I'm like doing a hip hop dance. I'm like doing a handstand on one of the booths. Like that's cool too, right? Or they're like, yeah. But like the celebration square. I'm like, okay. And so they really liked this bit. And it kind of became one of my signature things I did at the restaurant. And then earlier this year, the general manager came up to me and she was like, Fosse, we have like this gig we're doing in San Francisco and we want you to be there. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I would love to come. And they were like, yeah, there's this new bar that's opening up and they want some entertainment. I'm like, yes, like sign me up. And then I go, oh, by the way, like what kind of acts like do you want me to do there? She goes, oh, they want Celebration Square. I go, I'm so sorry. They asked for Celebration Square? Like you told them that was part of the option, but they could select, and they were like, yeah. I go, okay. I'm like, you know what? It's fine. I'll go do this. So I go, what do I pack for this trip? I was like stressing out. I was like, I have my tux, like that, but like I was like. And then I started stressing and like bought like multicolored tape at Joann's because I was like, what if the tape doesn't match the floor color? Or like so then I got all stressed on my tape. So now I have a whole bunch of tapes. Anyways, so I get to the event and so I go, back up. You're going to pay for my flight and my hotel for a couple days to go to San Francisco so I can draw a square of tape on the floor and clap for people. She goes, exactly. I go, okay, sure. I guess, yeah. Why the hell not?
You trained your entire life, Fosse, for these pivotal moments in your career.
So it gets better. So I'm at the event, and the event starts, and I'm a little nervous to do it because this is the first time I've done it outside of Super Frico. I'm like, does this work anywhere else? I don't know. So I do it the first time. I get like a good response. I'm like, okay, like this is kind of working. I like this vibe. Maybe I do it like 5 or 6 times during the night. And then at the end, I'm kind of standing around waiting to leave. And this guest comes up to me. He goes, dude, he goes, oh my God, you were the guy with the square, right? Brilliant. I go, no. And then I went back to my hotel room and I just sat there.
Contemplating your entire life.
I go, oh my God. I trained 10 years in circus and dance just to be famous over a square on the floor? No! So yeah, that's my story.
Oh God. Oh God, I had to control my laughter that entire time. It makes you think though. Now we're gonna keep talking because it makes you think why I put in all this work, this effort, this determination, this hunger to perfect my craft and be so good at it that I am now just working to cheer people on in a square made out of tape on a floor. I've made it. I've made it.
Oh my God! How do you go back during Thanksgiving and tell your extended family that?
There's so many things that I don't tell my family that I do because I'm like, no, Dad, you're gonna ask for all your money back if I tell you that I do this for work.
Yeah,
nothing to be ashamed of. It's just it's so silly, and I wish it was a lie. I do. When people ask me, I'm like, I wish I was making this up. I wish I was this creative to come up with stories like this, but this is real. This is what what I've done.
Reflecting on it further, that act is all audience interaction.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so and people like that.
Mm-hmm.
People I think enjoy being scene for a moment. And
Oh, yeah.
I usually try and get everyone in the restaurant to clap for them. So people kind of like are in on the bit. And so usually by the fourth or fifth person that steps in, everyone's kind of cheering for them.
Yeah.
And like that's a kind of a cool moment. And I think it kind of goes back to like giving the guests a good experience. All they want is like to have a memorable experience and have a memorable moment. And like, you know, selecting someone out and having them get a little attention for a moment is like usually a lot to non-performers. And I don't know, for some reason it really resonates and connects with people.
And don't get me wrong, a lot of these things like this, like the Yeti, like the square, like I can think of so many things that I've done as well that like it's not invalid. Now, the work is not invalid because you really did create a special moments for them. And, you know, people get confused and then they realize that it's a bit. And then, you know, I bet by the last few people you do, they end up like, you know, kind of giving you a little turn in the square and like they live it up. And that's really important to them. And again, I'm not discounting the work at all because it's fun and I love it and I find it hilarious. But it is also cool that you create those special moments and that these weird things also create special moments for people because there's going to be people who will never forget that they raved with a Yeti. And that's also so important that they got to rave with a Yeti in a bikini and they're going to love that forever. And it's going to be such like a fun moment and a fun time to look back on. But it's still just the idea of it is funny that we do train so hard and we just get to dress up like Yetis and rave. You know, and that's what the irony of it all is like, you know, we're so serious about it when it's like sometimes it's not about being serious. It's about being fun and about creating special moments. Yeah. Those moments are just as valuable as the moments we create on stage as well.
Yes.
So
yeah, you can really make an impact in small moments and also big moments.
Absolutely. So I didn't say all that to discount those.
No.
That's why I had to wrap that up a little bit because it's just funny though. Anyway, so coming up, you're still at Spiegel World. You're at Enchant currently. And if anybody decides to go to Enchant Christmas, you might see Fosse. And when is because you're going back out on Aida, right?
Yeah, I'm going back out next year.
Okay, when?
Next year.
Beginning of next year, like January or like, oh, okay, amazing. So if anybody wants to go on a cruise and go see Fosse perform his amazing act, Aida is where it's at.
Yeah.
And they can follow you on Instagram, and that will be in the show notes. Anywhere else that they can follow you or...
Instagram is the best place. That's where I post the majority of my work. Also YouTube, I have a lot of my full acts on there. So if you want to see the Late On Board cruise act or the Hadestown act, YouTube would be the best place.
And we're going to put that tag down in the description notes.
Awesome.
So click on it, watch him, follow him. And thank you so much, Fosse.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me, Abby.
I love you.